Everyone out there has a story. Don't be afraid to share those stories. We learn from others.
Yeah. Let's just not focus on being white, brown, or black.
Well, your group is like this table.
White.
Pretty flat and pretty white. Yeah. So do things that are just uncomfortable on stage.
Try spending as much time with your grandparents as you can.
Embrace your grandchildren, but don't stress the little stuff. If we don't learn from our mistakes, then we will repeat them and we constantly get ourselves into trouble.
It doesn't matter where you start in life, but what matters is where you grow in life. And that's a bio which I read on LinkedIn description of a person who is a grandfather of 4 and a father of 3 and also an active member of Rotary Club as well as Toastmaster Club. We have with us Mr. Sean Gold with us today. Thank you for coming on Stranger Story.
My pleasure. We learn as we grow. And we always learn, and we make corrections along the way. That's part of growing up. If we don't do that, if we don't learn from our mistakes, then we will repeat them and we constantly get ourselves into trouble. So if you're learning as you grow, you correct mistakes you've made in the past. That's part of growing. That's part of life.
Yeah.
And you should always be looking at what happened in the past before you make a decision on what's going forward. And if you work with what's happened in the past and say that didn't work or that didn't work in that way, make a minor correction, make an adjustment, but move forward and constantly moving forward. If you're not moving forward, you're going backwards. So the whole idea there is make your corrections and move on, and don't focus on the past. Focus on making the future better, but learn from the past.
So learning from our past and our mistakes could be the best teacher for us. Okay, let's start the video podcast with you today. Thank you for being on Stranger Story in collaboration with Pick Society. And the aim of this is to inspire someone watching this video in terms of making right decisions in life, and we would like to know your journey, how you started your journey where you are today and what all went through, your obstacles, how you overcame them. That is surely gonna help someone watching this. So let's begin with your childhood.
I was born in Toronto.
Okay.
So I was the one that was not born in the normal city or the normal location. Because we moved around a bit, I grew up in different areas. We lived in Toronto. That was left there when I was less than 2 years old, so I have no recollection of Toronto at all. Moved to Edmonton, then from Edmonton back to a place called Lloydminster, Alberta, which is on the border between Lloydminster and Saskatchewan, and lived there for about 2 years. I have the earliest recollections are from there, learning to skate on a frozen pond, doing some other stuff, participating in, watching a parade. Then we moved back to Edmonton.
I see.
And that's where I grew up. And that's where I spent my formative years up until my early adulthood was in Edmonton.
Yeah, okay, nice. So then when did you come to Surrey or Vancouver?
So that's
I'm waiting for that.
That's a bit of a story. I got married, I had a child. Both my daughters were born in Edmonton. I went to work for a company, Honeywell.
Yeah.
And I worked for them for 36 years. And they offered me a job in Vancouver.
I see.
Transfer me, and all of my colleagues were very upset because they all wanted to go to Vancouver. And they had no idea why I got to do that, and that comes down to attitude. So
after working for 36 years, you're retired and you're the president of the North Delta Rotary Club and taking care of other things like Toastmaster and all. How does it feel? Because I probably think you were a workaholic kind of person, because you're very much into what you're doing and what you're doing. So how does it feel like after the retirement, and what's the difference?
For me, and now I can only talk about me.
Yes.
I can't talk about anyone else.
That's okay.
There was very little difference. So let me explain that. In the last 20 years of my career, I spent 18, I think it was, working from a home office. I got used to that and being able to multitask in that area. Plus, I like multitasking. I'm one of those ones that doesn't like to focus too long on one subject. I can, but I don't prefer to. I like to get it done. In 2018 to 2019, I was a district director for a district which had 150 clubs and 2,000 members, and trying to manage all that while working full time and having at least one grandchild.
I see. Yeah.
At the time.
So that's multitasking.
That was keeping me busy.
Yeah.
And when the opportunity during COVID came, when I was asked I had to get rid of one of my employees, I said, get rid of me, because I was ready to go for multiple reasons. But it worked out really well that they said, okay, they gave me a package,
I see.
nice, comfortable handshake, and off I went. And I was still very active in Toastmasters. I wanted to get involved in Rotary, so I joined a Rotary club and got involved in it.
I see, okay.
And this is in 2000. And I've kept busy with that. I've been a mentor to a number of people within the Toastmasters organization. I took on the co-president role in 2021 with my Rotary Club, and I took on a president role a year later. So I've not actually slowed down, and I have had.
You've actually got
and one more grandchild. So I have
plate.
one more grandchild who was born along the way. So in that process, I had lots of things to keep me busy.
Yeah.
And I was the president of our Strata property, so I keep him busy with that, and photo club, which I like to do as a pastime.
Yes, you're an amateur photographer as well.
Yes.
So
if you go through Delta, you see a few garbage cans that have my name on them. There's 2 pictures that they've taken of mine, and they've got several garbage cans throughout, trash cans throughout Delta that have my photos on them.
Oh my God, I never knew that.
Okay. It's not a big deal. It's just fun to do.
That's something unique to hear. I had no idea about that. So you were mentioning about attitude. So what do you think? How does attitude change your way of life or dealing with other people, and how does it help you, or maybe doesn't help you?
It does. The right attitude can help you. The wrong attitude can burn you.
And what's attitude?
And I'm gonna say something, and I have to be very careful because I know it can be confrontational. The reference to get over it is what I have to say to myself. Don't stress the little things. I'm privileged. I grew up in a very privileged life. White, male, living in Western Canada.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong. No challenges in that regard.
Okay.
So I've had lots of opportunities in my life. And I get stressed out and frustrated when things don't go my way. But I look and say, other people have it a lot harder than I do. A lot harder. Yeah. So what am I complaining about? Why am I complaining about it? So to me, it's don't be a snowflake. Don't be a buttercup. Don't worry about it. Don't stress the little stuff. If it's really important, maybe you should be stressing it. But if it's stuff like that you just think that you're privileged and entitled to, but maybe you really shouldn't be, get over it. And if you get over that stuff, if you stop thinking that you are deserving of everything that's available, rather than you need to work for it.
Yeah, when you're privileged.
If you really start to realize that you need to put in some effort, and if you do put in the effort and you don't do it, sometimes it doesn't work. It's not going to work. It doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's somebody who puts in more effort who's more deserving of it because they've done the effort, they've done the job. But don't get stressed out about it if you don't get it, if you don't get your way.
I would like to exemplify it here by saying that, let's say, just taking it as an example, that Canada is a land of immigrants, right? So many immigrants come in, they have a hard time settling in the country, understanding the scenario. And now on the other side, there is a person who is already born in Canada like you, and I won't call it a privilege, because the people who are immigrating from other countries, they also are born in some countries and they choose to move out.
Right.
So in that case, it's a very tricky question for you to answer. I'm not sure whether I should be asking, but I will go ahead.
Go ahead.
So the question is, I have seen a lot of white people in Canada saying that immigrants should just go away, and they are making us difficult for the natives, I would say, or other people to settle down because of the increase in the housing or employment is a difficult thing. So what's your take on that?
Canada is a mosaic of people. We're not a melting pot like the United States. The United States wants everybody to be equal.
Yeah.
And the equal tends to focus on the white Christian background, or that whole that area. I don't even know what that demographic.
Okay.
In Canada, we aspire to being a mosaic, which is different cultures coming together and being able to work together and taking the best things from various cultures. And every culture has something to offer us. This country was founded on colonialism, which is putting down the native, the indigenous peoples, putting down anybody who came in to work and then sending them off with nothing, maybe giving them a little bit of money, but taking what they can from them that was their labor in that and throwing them away and discarding them. That is not a good history. That's not a good thing to look back on. I like the idea of being a cultural mosaic and that we have this diversity in our people. Not everybody thinks the same way. Great. There's some things which I don't agree with. There's some things I do agree with. Many things I do agree with. But we're a mosaic, and we should be a mosaic. We should encourage and support that. I tried to do that in my employment when I was hiring people. I've tried to do that in my participation in organizations and activities. I'm trying to do that with PICS, working with PICS, because I think that we need to do more of that, engaging the community, especially being representative of the community that we work in. And I feel frustrated that I'm a white person in a white group that's a male, English-speaking, born here, and I feel that I have to do that, but I have to do it even more so because it's hard to attract people into our organization when they come in the door and they say, well, your group is like this table.
White.
Pretty flat and pretty white, yeah.
I don't think so that should be the case, because when you...
It shouldn't be. But you know what? I don't blame
Is
people.
it?
When you go into a room, if you see that everybody is the same, but not you, that you don't fit into that group, you're going to feel uncomfortable, potentially. That. I don't want our group to be all white. I want to attract diversity. I want to bring in some color into our group. We're not totally white.
Yeah.
We have one little tiny speck of
and that's racism. I mean, we are all humans and we share ideas. That's it.
I know that.
End of discussion. So, I mean, that's something to take away from this this conversation that we had. So let's just not focus on being white, brown, or black. Let's just focus on sharing ideas. Let's just take each other, support each other in whatever capacity we can.
Exactly.
We can, and this is where the exemplification of attitude comes in.
Correct.
So, because we were talking about attitude, a positive attitude can help you align with each other and take the goals and missions forward. So thank you so much for saying that. How do you keep your mental health and physical health in place while working tirelessly, while going out, doing so much for the community? How do you take care of yourself?
That was one of the reasons I had my grandson in my office.
Oh.
It was mental health. In Toastmasters, I've done a number of speeches. I do a number of speeches. I do a lot of speeches. And I've written a lot of speeches. There was one that I've done 3 iterations of, and it was called Max Time. My grandson's name, my youngest grandson, is Max. And whenever I got stressed out, I just wanted him around. Just hanging around playing. And so it was a distraction.
Yeah.
And a real pleasant distraction.
Medicine for the soul.
For the soul.
Yeah.
Medicine for the soul.
So any message out for the grandparents listening to you?
Oh, embrace your grandchildren. They are the ones that will make your life meaningful. If it isn't meaningful already, they will make it meaningful. And if it is meaningful already, they'll make it meaningful in another way that you hadn't actually thought of. And that allows you to reflect back on your own past, on your own parents and your grandparents, by being a grandparent. It's an amazing process, and it will allow you to appreciate life and the small things a lot more.
And a small message from my side to the grandkids, that try spending as much time with your grandparents as you can, because they have abundance of love to give you. You have no idea. Your parents are just short of that, I mean, maybe your parents are busy with their work and everything, but your grandparents are always looking out to be with you. So spend your quality time with them. Moving on, I have one more question.
Sure.
It's a kind of educational tips kind of thing. So if there is somebody on stage, somebody preparing for their presentations or speeches, top three tips from your side. Okay, yeah, cool.
Stage time. Stage time is number one.
Okay,
The more you get up in front of people to talk,
I see.
the more comfortable you'll get. And if you listen to the feedback, the better you'll get at doing the basic things, standing up in front of an audience and talking. If you listen to your feedback, if you listen to what's going on, and you reflect on, talk to people, say, how did I do? What did I do right?
see.
What did I do? How could I improve? How could I be better? By doing that over and over again and constantly learning from it and progressing and changing it, tweaking it, you become better.
I see.
Number one.
Okay.
Number two, getting outside your comfort zone. Do things that are just uncomfortable on stage. Speak louder when you speak soft. Use the stage, walk around the stage with purpose. Get out from behind a lectern. Don't be dependent on a box in front of you, because it's interfering with your connection with the audience.
Yeah.
The audience is there. Go out to the audience. Go to the edge of the stage. Engage your audience. If you can have a lavalier mic, that's perfect. If you have to use a hand mic, that's fine. But don't sit behind a lectern, because that is there as a barricade protecting you from the audience, and you don't need that protection. And your audience cannot engage with you when you're behind that lectern.
Something to think about. Yeah.
That's number two. So get out of your comfort zone. Try things that are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Vocal variety. Telling stories, personal stories, and changing up some of the components of it. All of that is outside your typical comfort zone. Do that, and it'll help you engage with your audience. They will be able to appreciate what you're trying to tell them if you can do it from a personal story point of view, or tie in some personal stories. So that's number two. That's out of your comfort zone. And number three is widen your perspective along the way. And it's widening your perspective is to try to look at your audience from a different point of view. So this gets a little more complicated, but if you have an audience of 10 people, that's one thing. If you have an audience of 1,000 people, that's a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely.
In order to get that audience of 1,000 people and be able to understand them, appreciate them, you need to have a broader appreciation of what your audience expects, understands, is like. So I take this from a business point of view and say that when you move up the ladder of an organization, when you're a frontline worker, you don't have a lot of appreciation for the business.
Yeah.
When you're the CEO, COO, CIO, whatever role they are at the C level, you have this broad, incredibly broad view. You're up high, you have this wide view. You appreciate the business really a lot better. You can appreciate a lot more by having that broader view. And as you move up in an organization, same thing happens. At a supervisor level, you now start to appreciate what it's like to be a manager. As a manager, you have a broader view of supervising. Yeah. As a mid-level manager, you have a broader and geographical, wider view of the thing. If you change roles within an organization and still move up an organizational level, you have this broad view. You can appreciate things a lot more. Same thing with people. If you get this broader view, widen your perspective along the way, you will have more to say and more knowledge to impart on your audience.
Yeah.
A different mindset about what's important. Your audience will be able to appreciate what you have to say more. So those are the three things. Get, stage time, getting out of your comfort zone, and widening your perspective.
Yeah.
And that one, I have another speech I call You Reap What You Sow. SOW, sowing seeds in a field, you reap the benefits when those seeds grow. If you take care of them, if you put in the effort to water them, weed them, feed them, they will grow and you'll get an abundant harvest. You don't put any effort, you get nothing back. But if you do those three things, stage time, getting out of your comfort zone, widening your perspective, you will reap a much more bountiful harvest from the efforts you put in.
Such a nice learning for me as well. Yeah. So that's gonna really be helpful for, I think, most of us listening to the video. This helps in some way or the other. So for this video, we'll be winding it up. Any message for the community before we wind this up? Community at large. Any particular topic you want to talk about?
Everyone out there has a story. You have a story. We all have stories. We have multiple stories. Don't be afraid to share those stories. More importantly, don't be afraid to listen to other people's stories. We learn from others.
Yeah.
We learn from telling our own stories as well, so don't be afraid to tell them. But we learn from other people's stories as well.
That's the best message for Stranger Story so far. If you have any questions for Sean, please feel free to comment below, and we'll have him for part 2 pretty soon with all the questions that you have for him. He should hopefully be there for the next time as well. So thank you for coming to Stranger Story and sharing your journey, your thought process, and maybe we are inspiring somebody who's listening today. So thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.